Hello.
We said that at the same time.
Olsen. I am one of the backseat designers. I've got my colleague on air.
Hello.
You may notice some music in the background.
Which is surely going to get us booted off YouTube, by the way.
Sorry, what?
You know, copyright violations and shit. Have you ever experienced this?
The reason is that we have a special guest.
So do I.
Now,
very special guest.
We are doing the troll. Shut up for a minute.
Oh, sorry.
That we have this special guest on air.
I know exactly what you're feeling. Now go on, Fred.
On air with me, but off screen due to various considerations.
Personal issues.
Of Priapic Mountain Games.
Right, fella.
So I think what's going to happen at this point is I'm going to turn the music a bit down, not to interfere, because.
Oh mate, that's a classic. Why are you turning that down?
Well, it's actually not that loud. In fact, it just kind of sort of completely disappeared off the screen. But could you potentially be asked to move? Could you move the laptop closer to Pete, because I can barely hear him?
No, the reason is that Pete, could you move a bit over?
Slide it over.
Hey, Tro.
That's me. Hello.
Can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Great.
No, go on, Freddie, it'll be fine.
Well, the reason that Pete isn't available on screen is due to copyright consideration.
No, mate. No. It's not copyright considerations. No.
It's ethics.
Get the terminology right.
Yeah.
It's media rights.
Okay, media rights.
There are plenty of people out there that will put their image on a T-shirt, on a frisbee, maybe even on a CD. Just get their face out there. Well, I'm not having that, mate. If you're going to put Pete Toleman on a fucking CD, yeah, Pete Toleman is getting 50% of the rights. Okay. Okay.
So that's okay.
All right. Yeah. Now you guys. I'm going to say thank you. You paid for my plane ticket for me to get over to
it was the least we can do.
Yeah,
of course. We pulled our resources. That's why I'm not actually in the room, actually. That's because actually, I'm going to say actually again.
And I appreciate that 50% of my plane fare was obviously paid by Stephen Alexander, who is contractually obliged to be referenced.
You know what we say about Stephen Alexander, a special category of moron.
Well, yeah, he's a special category of moron. Yeah, we know that. He's willing to pay. He'll throw good money after bad. Yeah. But the point
he's the first person who's going to withdraw his pledge just because we said that. I'm sorry, Mr. Toleman. I'm sorry, Mr. Toleman. Please continue.
I'm here right now. You can ask me any questions you want. I am here for you two, because the fact that you and Stephen Alexander, who I'm contractually obliged to say, has paid for me to come over here.
Yeah.
Right. But what I am willing to say right now is that you will not have my face on your videos, and I reserve the right after the fact of this live broadcast to have my voice also taken off, because I'm not going to have Fatboy Slim or that David Guetta shit sampling my voice, putting it over some kind of beatbox shit. I don't know what modern music fans do, but they do this kind of David Guetta kind of, we're dancing in the moonlight. Pete Toleman going shit. Yeah, I'm not having that. So,
I've definitely got to build a beat around that.
Any word of what I have said here ends up on David Guetta, I'm fucking suing you for every penny you've got. All right.
All right.
I've got no problem. I've got no problem with you, Tro. I've got no problem with you, Fred. But I have a massive problem with David Guetta.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But I'm pretty sure, Mr. Toleman, please.
Shit.
Yeah.
Mr. Toleman, please.
What I suggest you do, Trolls, is that you head over on the RC channel, because I'm in this stuff. I'm in the presence of the stuff of legends.
You're in the presence of greatness.
I'm in presence of greatness. So
say it like it is.
Yeah, I'm in presence of greatness. So it wouldn't be fair of me to go hit the RC channel. So what I suppose you do is you head on over there, see if anyone over there has any questions for Pete.
Well, we did kind of put this together at the last minute, because frankly we were quite sure.
Don't spoil the magic.
I'm sorry, but I am on the IRC channel.
Who gives a
And,
shit? You put it together at last minute. People know that Pete Toleman's on this shit,
Yeah.
so you're gonna have at least 500 people in that.
Presence
RC
of
channel.
great, presence of great.
No, but
Right.
Mr. Toleman, please. Mr. Toleman, if I can just get a word in edgewise. You
No.
just high-fived them, didn't you?
Yeah,
You just physically high-fived them.
yeah.
All
But
right. Okay, cool. So your hand is now technically our
Danish
intellectual property. I know, but what I wanted to say was we were frankly expecting you at a later date, and for you to turn up unexpectedly at Aarhus Airport, where Fred had to sort of get out of bed, hungover, and only wearing pants, and getting down there, and frankly, getting that phone call in the morning. I mean, I'm speaking for my friend, obviously, but that was kind of, let's say, in the industry, that's known as a dig move, isn't it?
Well, I'm gonna throw two things at you there, Tro. Number
All right.
one, does anybody worry that the Pope turns up at unexpected hours? No, they don't. Number two, you agreed to pay for me to come across to Denmark on this business trip at least 3 or 4 months in advance. Now,
That might have been my mistake.
Now, clearly, I am not privy to the industry insider. Oh shit! Yeah, okay. I don't have access to your budget spreadsheet, and clearly the fact that you're not here shows that you're not very good with the taxman either.
Also,
you don't understand how the
That's true.
taxman in Denmark works.
Also, you don't have a secret quiches of the Lorraine historian.
You know, well, we'll get on to secret quiche in a minute if that's what you want to ask about.
No, absolutely.
But all
I
I'm
do.
saying is that you paid for my train tickets and my plane tickets in March. This should
Yes.
be a surprise. And the fact that you're not here and I am says more about you than it does about me.
Well, see, if you had given us the courtesy of leaving us a forwarding note about when your arrival would actually be, because frankly, I didn't know that you were going to visit until 10 this morning. And it is now 9 in the evening, obviously.
No. Shut your noise. I landed at Helsinki Airport at 7 a.m. this morning. So I have been in Denmark since 7 a.m. this morning. So you've
All
heard
right.
about this shit, mate.
George can document this. George,
Are you
man.
are you tangentially aware of where Helsinki is?
Yeah, Denmark.
Yeah.
And I've got
Right,
500
good.
euros in my pocket.
Oh, you also do realize that we don't actually use euros over here, or is that?
You fucking what, mate?
No, okay. So okay, we don't actually use euros here. What you've just picked up is basically monopoly money.
Well, I don't know.
What's happened? Well, how did I get here then?
Ethics.
I got picked up by Rapex code at like 7 o'clock this morning. I got driven to Denmark. Now, it's taken a long time, a lot longer than I expected, but I'm here now. I have euros in my pocket. I have beers in my hand. I don't understand what might have happened.
I do.
Now, did Fred actually physically shit in your hand, or is that just?
I'm laughing at times, then it's a medical condition. As Schultz has noted, I have this disorder of my eyes where I tend to look up into the air, and it also kind of makes me awkward in social situations and makes me laugh at random intervals. I'm really not finding any of this funny.
Mate, Fred,
No.
I've always seen you as the mighty Janetti to his.
Yeah.
No,
Wait, no. Let's just.
Paul Michael to his mighty Janetti.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh, seriously, let's just pull this.
Anyway, controls, can we for once on back?
Yeah, exactly. Let's just.
Can we for once do something that isn't exclusively you talking and just hand it over to Mr. Pete Toleman?
That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Let's. I mean, he's
Oh,
here.
yeah,
We're
right,
all
that
here.
was
Let's.
Exactly what I was gonna suggest when I was done talking.
What the fuck? I mean, shit. Okay. Seriously, everyone's in their place, sir. Because you're actually in the presence.
I will remind you why I invited Pete Toleman, because
Why did you actually invite that dude? I really want to know.
I wound up realizing post season 2 episode 9 that there is actually someone in this world who gives a shit about me and who gives a shit about all the shit I do. And I mean, all the stuff I have to put up with you, man. The Space Quest historian, the talk, because that's all you're about, man. Everything is about this. So, right, when are we going to hang out? When do I get to spew out shit So I actually realized that, okay, there may actually be someone here who wants to talk to me. Boobs, boobs, more boobs.
I agree with Fred, but my beer is also done. So
I'll go get you a beer.
I'll
go get you a
Sorry,
moment.
Fred.
So,
sorry,
Keith,
not Darren. Fred.
Keith, yeah,
Fred.
not Darren.
No, not Darren anyway.
While I am...
So actually, that's a good question. What actually happened to Darren?
This guy won't talk until we fucking ask him to! Anyway, while I'm off screen getting you another beer, why don't you talk a bit about who you are and how you got into the games industry?
I'd be happy to talk about that.
It's a flying start, isn't it?
Nice to be able to talk without being interrupted. Now, my name is Pete Toleman. I am the CEO of Priapic Games.
Awesome
I got into
intellect.
the gaming industry a long time ago. Shut up, Tro. I got into the gaming industry a long time ago. I was a young man. I was an impressionable man. Some might say I was a stupid man.
No, I don't believe it for a second.
Shut up, Tro.
No, I'm
doing
sorry. Do carry on, sir. Do carry on.
doing narrative here. It's a thing. You're interrupting. Anyway.
All right, I'm sorry.
So, I obviously am from England. I went over to California to learn coding back in the...
this is your glass, right, Pete?
Oh, yeah, that's my glass. Thank you very much, yeah. So I got into coding in the late 80s. And in 1991, I went over to California to learn coding. And while I was there, I coded a soft porn version of King's Quest 1.
Nice.
And it was very successful. I made a lot of 5 1/4 inch floppies into 5 1/4 inch erections during that period. And
classy as always.
No, that's no laughing matter.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying that was a brilliant
medical condition. Why are you laughing at this?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend. Please, Mr. Toleman, please. Carry on.
It's not the size. It's how you use it.
Well,
that's what you always say.
The point was, I realised that soft porn was a niche in the adventure game industry that had not been catered for. Certainly hadn't been catered for by Roberta Williams. It certainly hadn't been catered for by Scott Murphy. Josh Mandel was basically a gleam in the Sierra eye of, if we are to say that Sierra was the milkman, and Dynamics was the hoary housewife.
Really try not to interrupt there, dude.
Description of what happened.
It's basically historically accurate, I lived it, so I know it. And the point was that I sold at least 320 copies on campus of my soft porn game, and that was enough for me. I realised that I was a genius. I realised that I was a visionary. And from there, I thought, well, why bother finishing with my degree in marketing? What is the point? I went out, I set up Priapic Games in California. And, I haven't looked back since. Now, obviously, there's been some issues on the way. We are now based in Basingstoke, back where I used to live. But, I'm big enough for people like backseat designers to invite me over to a foreign country.
Which is our pleasure, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on this goggle hang time because of you. And, I'm just here to shoot the shit, mate. This is a podcast. I understand what podcasts are about. And, you ask me any question, I'll give you any answer, mate. I'm here. I'm free. I'm here to interact with my fans.
Right.
You're at Shark Tro. I'm here to interact with all the people who like me, and I know like me because of all the things I've done. So we're here. You've got Rick Astley in the background. I can
turn that up actually.
Yeah, but I don't think you could create a better industry or a better setting for me right now. And as long as Tro Plymouth agrees not to interrupt me every 5 minutes.
You're not going to get him to do that.
Well,
can't make that promise, sir.
Shut up, Tro. Let's just shoot the shit and just get it done. Let's get
But
it.
I do have a question.
Yeah, throw
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
I do, because I'm very interested in the early days. Now, you said you set up a software company in California, which is of course where Sierra Online was based back in the heydays, and you said in the late '80s.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know what your what your relationship was with the adventure game scene in California. And just what was the vibe in the late '80s? I mean, how were you? Because I'm imagining you guys met at like trade shows, and you guys showed off games next to each other in booths and stuff like that. I mean, how was all that scene?
Well, I mean, I think your vision of the adventure game scene in the late '80s is very stylized. I mean, you seem like Eurotrash. You smoke cigarettes on air as if that's cool, even though it's not. So, I mean, I think you have a very particular vision of the adventure game industry in the 1980s that maybe does not accord with reality.
Kind of romanticized, maybe. Yeah.
Shut up, Tro. Now, I was there in the 1980s, and I enjoyed myself. I'm not going to lie. I mean, this was the heyday of cheap Coke. So I think, Fred,
it makes sense.
Yeah, Fred understands. So, we were there.
Because he does a lot of Coke, obviously.
There's anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, shut up, Tro. Anyway.
Okay, sure, cool.
And, no, when I say shut up, Tro, that's not an invitation for you to make more noise, mate. All right?
I know. Just clear my throat.
Good.
Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, and you take a drag on another cigarette like you're a fucking Frenchman. Listen, I was there in California at the time. Now, I spent a good 2 years writing letters to people like Ken Williams, like Scott Murphy, like Al Lowe. And I was there saying, look, mate, I've sold 300 copies of my game. I'm clearly the shit. By this point, it's very obvious that I am the shit. And so I said to them, look, I mean, I'm willing to offer my services for free. I mean, I just want to be where you guys are. But it became very clear very early on that Oakhurst was not the place for me, Tro. And I think the reason that it was not the place for me was that it was very obviously very stylized at that time.
The mountains and shit.
Yeah, shut up, Tro. I was there. I was thinking, these games that they're producing, they're very big on making sure that they don't have bugs in them. They're very big on making sure that the story makes sense. They're very big on the art, and they're big on the direction. And what I was more interested in was selling games. And that is not based on making sure that games are bug-free or that they're good. It's based on selling games, mate.
All right, so artistic integrity, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shut up, Tro. So what I was going to do was just put out these things as best I could. And so in the period where I was applying for jobs at Sierra in like 1987, 1988, 1989, I was there for a good, 36 months. I was pumping out games, mate. I was pumping out Roberta Williams's Black Cauldron. I was pumping... No, shut up, Fred. I was pumping out...
I'm sorry, you said Roberta Williams's Black Cauldron. And I think, I'm not alone in the regard that, let's be fair to each other, trolls. Many adventure games fans would like to pump Roberta Williams's Black Cauldron.
Obviously.
I'm just gonna turn over the Rick Astley LP because I noticed Site 1 has approached its end. But
yeah, please do fuck off.
Yeah, Peter.
No, it's very clear that you're more interested in your Rick Astleys and your questions than the actual details of when I was there. Ask yourself another question. Ask yourself another question, mate.
All right, because I'm really interested because I did a little bit of digging, and I noticed that the Priapic mountain that was registered in the offices of San Francisco, was it?
Yeah, true.
Were let's say funded by someone who has disappeared off the radar. Is there any truth to these rumors that I'm just going to put it out there that there's some sort of illicit.
Ixnay, I've already been there. He doesn't like to talk about that.
Mate,
No?
mate, have you got names? Are you willing to name names?
No. I'm not going to name names. I'm just
No.
I'm just putting it out there because it's on the internet. It's you can
Well,
freely look up.
if your questions do not have names, then I'm not willing to answer them. So move on.
No, okay, sure. But there are
rolling in search of the big scoop, but he's not interested.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because clearly you want to ask this. Have you been paying attention to what has happened to FIFA over the past week?
Yeah. No. Well, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Have they named names?
No, but obviously because they're a huge crime syndicate of ill repute, and which is kind of what I wanted to get into.
Yeah. Let me just put it to you this way: if you're not willing to name names, shut the fuck up. All right, Trey?
All right, cool.
Okay.
Let's not go into. Okay. So moving back. Let's see. Okay, you put out a number of very, very cute games while you were based in San Francisco. Most of them, as far as I can tell from the actual sales figures, if you look those up in the Chamber of Commerce of San Francisco and such, they didn't actually make quite a lot of money, but you were somehow able to stay in business. What prompted your return to London?
I just want to interject. I'm gonna excuse myself, but
oh yeah, that's professional. Yeah, cool. So anyway, Mr. Toleman, what prompted your return to the UK?
Well, there were a number of reasons why I returned to the UK. I mean, on a fundamental level, I felt from an artistic perspective, I think I'd missed out on a lot of issues, because when you're in America, it's a land of opportunity. It is a land of plenty. It is a land of many things, but what it is not a land of is black pudding, chips, and beans.
So you get kind of homesick kind of thing.
Shut up, Tro.
All right.
I believed that the English breakfast is a thing that I wanted. But I think what really prompted me to leave really was that, I'd been in America for a long time. I'd been there on a student visa since 1989, and that visa expired in 1992. And in 1994, I just realized that it was time to leave before I got deported.
Mm-hmm. I see. So what have you actually released once you returned to the UK? I understand you were under some sort of hostile takeover in a number of recent years, actually, like the last couple of years.
I've managed to maintain control of my company. I've released a lot. I have released a lot since I came back to Britain. A lot of it has ended up being caught in tissues and flushed down the toilet. But in terms of games, I've released a lot as well. And, there have been a number of releases that I have expelled upon the public and that they have appreciated as it is a spread all over them. But I suppose in recent years, what has really affected me has been the hostile takeover by one Serena Nelson.
All right. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at. I mean, what was your experience from? Because over on the other podcast where you used to leave voice messages and such, which I thank you for. Thank you for.
Well, no. Let me correct you there. Tro, shut up, Tro.
Okay. Thank you.
I did.
Anyway.
Shut up, Tro.
I am.
You're still not shutting up, Tro.
No, I'm not.
Shut
I
up,
want
Tro.
to. I want to, but I'm not.
Shut up, Tro!
Okay.
What part of this is he not getting, Freddie?
Well, this is basically my backseat designer's experience. And I didn't sign up for this. It was just
This dude interrupts me more than anyone.
Shut up, Tro! It was just this friend of mine who said, let's do a podcast together. But he doesn't actually get the part where he shuts up and where I speak. And, you know, I'm genuinely hurt of that. I'm hurt by that. And that's why I invited you over.
You're A-hurt about that? What does A-hurt mean?
You actually seem like someone who wanted to talk to me. But of course, he probably wants to talk to you because
I don't want to talk to you. Man, you're just a cipher that I bounce ideas off of. You're like the magic mirror. All right, cool. Do you have any questions for our esteemed guest? No. I'm trying to pass the word to you. You piece of. That's too close. That's way too close. Please.
Shut up!
Okay.
Anyway, hostile takeover. Your impressions of that? Go.
No, well, what I wanted to say was that I never sent any voicemails to the Space Quest Historians podcast. Now, this seems to be the myth that has gone around the internet. I never sent voicemails to the Space Quest Historian podcast. What I did was I understood that Tro, who will never shut the fuck up.
No, that is him, all right. That's him.
Had experience in communicating with the community, and what I wanted to do was leave voice messages with him to get my point across. What I wanted to let Tro know was that, you know, this is a complicated industry.
Yeah.
Things go on.
That was around the time we first met, wasn't it?
It was.
And I didn't get exactly who you were, but then
but you were very kind on Twitter. You were very accommodating. You expressed opinions. Shut up, Tro!
All right.
Expressed opinions that accorded with reality, and I appreciated that.
I do my best.
So I left messages with Tro, just to let him know to other people what was going on. And he used those messages. He used those messages to undermine my company, to allow Serena Nelson to to effect a takeover of our company, Tro. And what ended up happening was that he completely undermined everything that I was doing. Now, I personally feel that this man is the ruiner of my company, but he clearly doesn't.
Dude, you left me voicemails. You told me just, you know, use this information however you want. You wrote that in a fucking email. I assumed that means I can just play these voicemails on my show. And why?
You've never heard of
I'm really flabbergasted at these accusations that you're coming up with.
You've never heard of podcaster confidentiality.
I must really agree.
Is there such a thing?
Well, I gotta agree with Pete that what you're doing isn't very...
Of course you're gonna agree with Pete, you piece of shit.
Well, he paid for a couple of these beers. I mean, these are on...
Oh, he paid for a couple of beers. We took money out of the Patreon account to fly this piece of shit into the country. And you're gonna tell me just because he bought you a couple of fucking beers, he's entitled to his opinion.
But anyway, it does sound
cocksucker.
like what you've been doing hasn't been very ethical. You know, even as your friend, I'm sorry to say.
Ethical. You're gonna talk to me about ethical.
It's not very ethical. I mean, I could bring Doc 10 Nabel in here, and he would tell you what's wrong about that.
Oh, let's not get another douchebag in here, shall we? I mean, honestly, this is going south faster than an Arctic explorer. I'm not going to.
It was Norwegian, not Danish. You fuckers lose.
Oh, give me a fucking rest, you cunt.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Nobel Prize, Norwegian. ABBA, Swedish. Björk, Icelandic. Yeah. Every other Nordic country has done something of note apart from you fuckers.
Aqua. What about... Oh, wait. I just answered my own question. I'm sorry. No one. Nothing. Anyone?
Mika fucking Häkkinen.
Can we just... Dude. Can we just roll the intro?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask this question once and for all.
All right.
Have we now officially? I'm gonna Christopher Lee here. Have we now officially jumped the shark?
No, there is no shark jumping. There is, however, an intro.
Yeah, intro.
I have summoned the hounds of death. Now we shall see whether you've kept up with your running lesson.
Can I get in shot now?
Cool.
I was literally waiting for Fred to start interviewing you, and he never did.
Yeah. Okay. What I first want to say, if this ends up getting into the final episode,
It does.
My name is Gareth Millward. I'm Pete Toleman, and if you don't get the joke or have been accustomed to the joke, I apologise for wasting the past half hour of your life.
Is this our boom moment? Are we back on the air? Because he could basically just...
And boom, we have him back for a couple of seconds.
Right, cool. Hi, Gareth.
Hello.
It's
I'm
very
Gareth.
nice to sort of meet you. So we are live here. This is the Backseat Designers. Now on to official business.
Yeah, we finally managed to bring a guest on board. No thanks to you, but
no.
If you've ever listened to an episode of this and it keeps being interrupted by Fred going, "Oh, and by the way, Gareth on the IRC channel, he says that something has happened and maybe this is worth discussing." I am the arsehole who dominates the IRC channel with my own shit.
Joe Frazier.
By the way, you just made Fred out to sound like one of the fucking Nazis from Indiana Jones.
No.
If you notice a little interruption of a Jewish nature over on the IRC channel,
Of a Jewish nature?
Gareth Millward, with his exceptionally Jewish features, fucking up shit.
Well, this is off to a flying start, isn't it?
Fred is anything. He is the far too affectatious Frenchman who thinks that everything is art when actually it's bullshit.
Well, in all fairness, I do look like Cillian Murphy. You can't unsee this, ladies. Just saying.
He's Irish.
Scarecrow.
Cannot be unseen.
Scarecrow is available. Scarecrow is on the market.
Cannot be unseen.
So anyway, thank you.
28 days later.
I'm also 10 centimeters shorter than him.
All right.
And 30 centimeters shorter than you, Troy. Sorry, trolls. I can call you trolls.
I'm completely losing my fucking train of thought here.
Incidentally, I hope you don't take offense at my... I was putting on a character before because I kind of had to fit whatever we just did into the character arc of me being tired of you and me bringing over Pete. So
you're not
I hope no offense is taken, man, because then it'll be all the more easier for me to put it on the carpet and just,
in artis veritas.
You guys, yeah, I'm just gonna hug the screen now. You guys are so beautiful. Yeah, I know. Now you know what it feels like to have someone's face in their fucking.
This is what it feels like.
I'm British. I'm genetically homophobic. I don't like that.
All right.
Like the bartender we ran into.
No, he's
oh yeah. Please explain.
Yeah, it's fine.
Please explain briefly to the listening and/or viewing audience about the incredibly homophobic British bartender you met in Denmark. What the fuck?
He wasn't homophobic.
You probably need a bit of context.
Not homophobic.
The reason why.
Well, that's an important distinction, isn't it?
Is that he's in the city I live in for a conference on. Would you say internet preservation? From a historical perspective.
I'd say a lot of things there.
Yeah, he would. Well, he is a doctor in history, so he would know. Anyway,
Dr. Gareth Millward.
Dr. Gareth Millward. Doctor. No. Anyway, we
that was unnecessary.
We met a couple of hours ago and went to a pub,
and now we're lovers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Extramarital affair. Anyway, what happened was that we sat down at this pub. I don't quote, shut up, Tro. went to have a few beers, and this bartender, who was very, very British, got wind of the fact that Gareth is English, and within minutes, within minutes he was heaping his wisdom upon us.
I thought he was from New Zealand.
I say wisdom. I say wisdom, but I mean crap.
All right. So anyway, the reason that we started an episode for no real reason is because this is the only night that we have Gareth, and Gareth is of course a paragon of
the only night, because we're
integrity.
Gonna hang out, bromance.
And I just invented a phrase known as integral integrity.
Yeah, very much so. I have a very
Gareth fist me.
Yeah, I have a very loose hand.
What?
Bro fist.
Gareth. Okay, did you just say Gareth fisted me?
Very much so.
Oh, cool.
I refuse to comment on that.
Whatever you guys were getting up to before we started this hangout, I really want to know.
Well,
but after the broadcast, please. So anyway, what we wanted to get up to, because we now have a bona fide Ph.D. in history with us. Was also a very mature individual who I respect and admire a lot. His tongue is shorter than Fred's, by the way. Fred, go ahead. Gene Simmons, that mother. Holy shit, man. I mean, you're like a fucking cobra.
Cold gin!
Alrighty.
Want to rock and roll all night.
It's a good job his wife's
and party every day.
If his wife was watching this, she'd be gone, mate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's not. She never listens or watches, which is a good thing. Actually, Gareth, does your wife watch or listen to either the Space Quest Historian podcast or the Backseat Designers? And if so, can she recognize you as Pete Toleman?
Well, she knows I'm an outside pet.
She knows what Pete Toleman is.
Like vaguely.
She does not approve.
She does not. Okay, cool.
Have you ever used Pete Toleman in bed?
Oh God, you did not just. Oh God.
Yeah, I think my penis just retracted.
Have you ever said "I'm out"?
I can. The thing is, shut up, Troy.
All right.
The thing is, one day. The point is, Pete Toleman, the original Pete Toleman, was based on a number of British sitcom characters
whom you have used in bed.
Who have in bed. And my wife knows about those characters in bed. And so if I were to tell her what Pete Toleman was, a conglomerate of basically our sex life, her reaction would probably be to chop off my penis. And we've seen from Sin City, that would turn me into a yellow bastard.
Boobs.
Yeah.
Oh, boobs.
So that's endearing.
Can we get on to an actual episode?
Let's get on.
Let's get on to the meat of things, shall we?
Nobody likes in jokes.
No.
Nobody likes.
This is all boring. The reason why we've
ethics.
Exactly.
Go questions.
Yeah.
Right. The reason we've got a PhD of history with us tonight is because that we wanted to talk about adventure games that use history, that actually take place in the real world, that actually incorporate things of the real world and the real past and things that have happened in the real world.
Well, good art always incorporates reality.
Well, there is, but we've been mainly talking about fantastic elements. Like I'm not going to say the Broken Sword because that does actually kind of tie into it. But Beneath the Steel Sky, Space Quest, all of our favorite games. Yeah, those are the only two, by the way.
In fantastical settings, certainly. I mean, King's Quest, you've got your Tolkien-esque fantasy world. Quest for Glory, the same. Space Quest is basically pure Star Wars and Star Trek or. What else have you got? Full Throttle, post-apocalyptical, Day of the Tentacle is pure Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I can make an argument about how all of those are based on our collective memory of history. I'm not going to, but I could. And I think history is, and this is one of the reasons why I'm so chatty in the IRC channel and drown out everybody else is because, and this is going to sound sycophantic because perhaps it is, but you guys always manage to pick up on the things that are interesting to a historian about narrative, about literature, and about how the fact that every adventure game cannot be separated from its historical context.
I'm so glad you said that, because it's always been my point of view that
background and
see, he interrupts me more than I do. No, he really does.
Shut up.
Yes,
bro.
but I'm English, so I'm polite, and you are a cunt.
Yeah, that is true. But he's from Funen, which is like the arsehole pimple of Denmark. It's like this little tiny glob of sputum at the bottom.
I'm the pimple, you're the asshole.
Do you know the map of England?
Yes.
It's us, East Anglia. That's where I'm from. So maybe we share a history.
Yeah.
Maybe we
share a lot of anal history.
Maybe we just share a general disagreement with you.
Yeah. That's an interesting point of view that I'm going to completely gloss over.
Yeah. Anyway, he's
the guy with the tongue.
We do have an academic background, and I like to think that the stuff we'll let on this podcast, the stuff that you can't really say anywhere else. I mean, there are plenty of nostalgia groups over on Facebook for both Sierra and LucasArts, where people will just gloss over the odd moments that these games had and just pretend they never were. Whereas as we're kind of trying to get into what made these games tick. So, but what Gareth is saying makes sense to me. Stuff like Day of the Tentacle could never happen today, because some of these games that we sit around playing and reminiscing about today are very much products of their times.
And what I'd also like to say as well is that while they end up being products of their time, the really good ones, they might be products of their time, but they're also pushing the boundaries of their time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is important in itself as well.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
And they also have callbacks to what were products of their inspirations, where you say like Day of the Tentacle has inspirations from like the 1950s and 1960s cartoon traditions of the US.
Well, Day of the Tentacles goes way back. Day of the Tentacles goes back to Looney Tunes from the 1930s.
Oh, 1930s and 40s, obviously.
And the whole concept of retro as well. I mean, we're entering an age now where the 90s is retro.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff that's been released in recent years where it's like 80s retro. I mean, as much as if you haven't seen the Mad Max movie, go out and see it because it's fucking amazing.
It's absolutely brilliant.
But it is so 80s in so many ways, and in a really good way as well.
Even the poster that they did from that was 80s. You have this picture from the movie, this design with the characters. Then you have a white kind of slanted line going through that with Mad Max Fury Road written slantedly again. It's brilliant.
I've heard that they're going to release the Blu-ray where you can watch it in black and white.
I'm gonna.
Oh no way!
I loved the shit out of Fury Road.
You know what? We're going to come to the age where they actually release this shit like laser discs, and they're going to put out like a cheapo kind of laserdisc players for people who like with USB plugins. You can plug this.
I would actually pan the camera over to my laserdisc collection at this point.
But you're not going to.
That's laserdisc.
But also bullshit on that, because I've heard that they're going to release the Matrix on 3084 5¼ floppy discs.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, and that's also very.
I have a drive for that right over there.
One of the Wachowskis is a woman now, so you know.
Yeah. They're not the Wachowski brothers. They are just the Wachowski siblings.
Yeah.
And as we all know, women love floppies. So they've got that going.
That's sexist, man.
Yeah, that's something your wife has told you.
Oh, that's sexist.
Far too far. Far too far.
All right. Let's get into the topic, shall we?
Let's get serious.
All right. Okay. the topic are historical games.
Good.
I mean,
Oh, it's very good. Yeah.
Because I haven't actually
want
had
to,
any. Yeah, I could have a glass of that. Don't pour it in.
the latest game I can think of. Has anyone played Francisco Gonzalez A Golden Wake, which takes place in the 1930s?
Say that I haven't. What? Thank you. I'm ashamed to say that I haven't. I really should. I should play more Watch It Eye stuff because I hear it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I just downloaded Techno Babylon, which is not in our line of discussion here. Can anyone name a historical adventure game that they really, really like, that really got things right?
I can't name any that got things right, but off the top of my head, the only historical adventure game I know as such would be Gold Rush. That is purely historical, but it is also in many ways it is historical in the wrong way that it kind of, much of what happens during adventure games is dependent on fate playing out in your manner. You wind up in shit and you somehow miraculously get out. But Gold Rush is notorious for pitting you in unwinnable situations before you realize they're unwinnable. And in a sense, that's kind of nice because it mirrors what early American settlers had to go through. Have you ever? I realize you must have heard, but the story of the Donner Party, early American.
Oh yeah, shit. People lost in the mountains, ended up having to
being blocked off by a mountain pass and being snowed in, and they had to eat each other.
This is the point where I admit I've never heard this story. Carry on, Frederick.
Yeah, well,
the Donner Party?
No, the Donner Party was this party of early American settlers who, in best faith, made off into the promised land in a bunch of wagons, on a wagon trail.
Wait a minute. Sorry. Since I already know the story, please explain it to Gareth while I go Tycho.
Yeah, go Tycho. Yeah.
And explain to the audience, because the audience will need to know more. Yeah. I'm just doing this as a narrative device.
Well,
so you explain to the camera. Yeah.
What happened was that the Donner Party was this. This is like the third time I'm saying this.
The camera.
Yeah, the camera. Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian. What happened was that the Donner Party was this party of early American settlers who went off in search of a better life in the Promised Land, and they wound up at the mountain pass. And it was a really bad winter that year. We're talking like, I suppose, 18th, 19th century, and they snowed in. I don't know when was the settler era in America. I think 18th, 19th century. Yeah, 1800s. I'm probably being slightly optimistic. Anyway, they snowed in and they were forced to resort to cannibalism. So that happened. And I suppose in many ways, while not being as grotesque and as gruesome, Gold Rush is fairly close to that because some of the...
You died of cholera.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You died of cholera before you saw it coming. I suppose in many ways it's kind of true to life. You don't see cholera coming unless it's too late. Certainly in the 1800s you didn't. You didn't see that snake bite as being poisonous before it got to you.
Well, I mean, I should probably kill the fun at this point. And so
no, go ahead, please.
No, I mean, I'm based at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is a ridiculously long name for a university. But one of our sort of founding fathers, or the people that we kind of cling on to, is a guy called Jon Snow, who discovered the link between...
Not the Jon Snow of Game of Thrones.
No, not Jon Snow of Game of Thrones, not Jon Snow who does the Channel 4 news in the United Kingdom. Jon Snow, who discovered the link between dirty water and cholera. And so as a historian, the things that we're kind of confronted with whenever we have people come to us and say, oh, is this game historically accurate? They don't tend to be adventure games, actually. And I know that I'm glad that Trolls is going for a piss because he won't be able to stop me from saying this. But I'm going to talk about games that aren't actually adventure games. And talk about things like Civilization and Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, I think is the name of the game. Which the latter two are both done by what's the name of the company that does those?
I'm not sure who does
They
those
also
games.
they also do cities. City Skylines.
I do know.
Amazing games, but they're not adventure games. So you
I
don't
do
want to know
know.
about those.
I do know of Europa Universalis,
Yeah.
but I don't know of the company that makes them.
Yeah. So the shut up, Troy. So I have read academic papers on the historical accuracy of Civilization and Crusader Kings. And so the kind of things that we're kind of bombarded with are these kind of macro historical narratives of how humanity developed from where it was as this kind of caveman kind of thing through to how we are today as these perfectly rational, brilliant human beings. What I'm interested in from the adventure game point of view, and I think what adventure games could really do well, is what we went into in the 1970s. This idea of the micro history. And if I'm allowed to get trolls, you can tell me whether I'm allowed to do this. Am I allowed to tell the story of how micro history came about and how it?
I just bumbled in a few seconds ago. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
It may be the most interesting thing we've got on the show ever, short of Joe Frazier.
So please go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to very heavily borrow here from, if you ever do history at the University of Warwick, I'm about to bore you because you
All right, hang on.
Oh, you've got your popcorn. That's fine. That's fine. Okay,
good shit.
So there's two stories which are often told as the classical micro histories. One is by Ginsberg, and one is by Natalie Zeman Davis. And the first one by Ginsberg is about the story of the cheese and the worms. There was a guy in Italy in the times of the Inquisition who genuinely believed that the universe was like a cheese, a wheel of cheese.
I like him already.
You should. And the way that life worked was that these worms used to hollow into the cheese and create these crevices and these tunnels which bored into reality and changed the way the world worked. And he genuinely believed that this was the way that the world worked. And the Inquisition found out about this guy and started interrogating him about his view of the universe. And started talking about, well, why do you believe that this cheese is here and these worms are here and all these kind of things? And this historical work was based solely on the Inquisition papers of this one person and about how he described the world. And from this, Ginsberg, as one of the great historians, was able to draw wider conclusions about the way that Italian society dealt with Catholicism in a world in which Catholicism was so sort of everywhere that it was impossible to critique. And it's this great story on a very human level, on very small sources, about this one singular person, which cannot really be extrapolated to the general, but it was about this one person. It was one story, and it was a narrative about this one person. The other one is Natalie Zeman Davis, and you may have come across this in a number of different areas. If you've ever seen a film, you're more likely to have seen this than the film that it's actually based on, involving Richard Gere. It's called Summersby, and it was set in the Civil War era. Have you ever seen this, Trolls?
Can't say that I have.
Yeah, you probably haven't because you actually have taste. Anyway.
Nope. I watch predominantly horror films, so no taste whatsoever.
He did say Richard Gere, so you know it's a fair cop.
If my wife met you, she'd run away with you. That's what I'm worried about. Anyway.
That was a weird thing to interject, but okay, I'm cool. Run with it.
Shut up, Try.
All right.
Anyway, the story goes like this. It's set in southern France, and it's based on historical sources, and we have the actual court records to back this up. A man called Martin Guerre in southern France.
I was going to say French dude, right?
He's a French dude in southern France.
Yeah, I'm participating.
Shut up, Troy.
Right.
And he leaves his village to fight in the war general war. Can't remember which it is. Doesn't really fucking matter. The Richard Gere film is based in the Civil War, which helps to ground it. Anyway, Martin Guerre leaves. He goes to fight in this war. Word comes back a number of months later that he's been killed in this war, and the widow is sad.
No.
Actually, shit happens.
One does.
Like widows do.
A number of months later, a man comes back claiming to be Martin Guerre. And this is an age before photographs. It's an age before people have direct records of who is who. Nobody has a passport. Yeah. Nobody has an insurance number. All these other kind of things. And the widow claims she believes this new Martin Guerre to be the actual Martin Guerre. And she settles down with him and builds a life with him. Now, the question is he actually Martin Guerre? Because,
or is she off her fucking rocker?
Or, well, she might not be off her fucking rocker. She might be lying. Because the family of Martin, or Monsieur Guerre, do not believe that he is actually who he says he is, but the wife says he is, and, based on the fact that, she's seen his penis.
Did they have insurance policies back then?
No, but they had penises.
They did have penises back then, and that's historical fact. And I'm a history PhD, so that is a fact that you can believe. They did.
I will defer to your knowledge, sir.
Absolutely. I'm not even a medieval historian, but I'm going to tell you that. Anyway.
All right.
The family of do not believe that this is the person, but the wife says that he is. And so who are they to judge? And so the returned Martin Guerre, la retour de Martin Guerre, in the French, Natalie's she says that, this is the person that she says it is. And they start to build a family, and they have children and everything.
I mean, can you see him? He has the beard, he has the penis. Please go with it.
He has both beard and penis, and that is critical to this story.
This is as good as fingerprints.
Critical. Do you understand why I keep saying "shut up, Tro"?
No.
Anyway,
no, I do not.
Martin Guerre has returned
with penis and beard.
Hence the title of the book, La Retour du Martin Guerre et son penis.
Right, what's the point? Come on.
The point is, many years down the line, another man claiming to be Martin Guerre returns, claiming
with the same penis,
Martin Guerre. And the brothers of Martin Guerre say, yes, this is actually Martin Guerre. And the wife says, no, it isn't. This other guy I've been fucking is Martin Guerre. And the other Martin Guerre goes,
maybe he goes, suck it.
You've been fucking the wrong guy. What the fuck, guy? It's all in medieval French, and I can't quite understand it. But the point is,
but that's the gist, yeah.
The point is that in Toulouse, where this story is set, a judge has to decide which is the real Martin Guerre.
Which is the real penis.
In a world where there are Martin Guerres. In a world where you could fuck two guys. One of those guys is not the guy you were supposed to fuck.
All right, so what I hear you say is that there are plenty of historical occurrences whereof you could build what you would call a fantastical history.
No, you've missed the point entirely, Trey.
Okay.
I was late to this. I was off having a wee.
No. You've missed the point entirely. The point is that you can trick any
Can I just interject a bit of Hans Zimmer?
No. I want to hear the point. Please do the point.
If I can be serious for a second.
Yes, please do.
do the historical thing for a second.
Yeah.
The point is that eventually this second Martin Guerre that returns is declared to be the real Martin Guerre, and the imposter refuses to admit that he's an imposter and ends up being executed for being an imposter.
But he can actually do that.
But to the very end, he said
to the very end, and his wife defends him to the very end, but he still gets executed. My point is that there is a academic historical tradition of the micro-history to take one specific narrative involving very specific sources about a very specific story and investigating to its very fullest what that actual story is and then presenting it. Now, there was a film that Natalie Zeman Davis was the one of the head writers on that told this story of Martin Guerre, and it eventually became a motion picture called La Retour de Martin Guerre, and then it became an academic text called The Return of Martin Guerre, which was published, and she was a Jewish Canadian scholar who published that both in French and in English. My point is that you can take a narrative, you can take a story, you can take something that is academically, artistically, and morally significant and tell a story that needs to be told using historical sources, using very important evidence. And you can tell that story in a variety of ways. And she told that story through motion picture, through Hollywood, and through the traditional text of the academic paper. And what I am here today, other than to do pathetic impressions of Pete Toleman.
Well, I think we got that covered.
Is to
do an impression. Yeah, good.
This is something that I have heard academics say that the video games industry should do and has not yet done. And I'm here to make the case for why you guys should tell other people to do it.
Hello.
But what I also hear you say is that video games, as well as literature, as well as motion pictures, as well as any other form of storytelling medium, could tell the, let's say, the less popular version of the truth. Like I hear you say between the lines, history is written by the winners. So whatever's the popular opinion is what gets into the textbooks. Sorry, didn't catch that.
I'm English, and we always win.
There's that, and good luck with colonialism, by the way.
Ethics and colonialism.
That's ethics and colonialism right there. No, but what I hear you say is that computer games, far be it from just telling a story, they could actually pontificate or educate on certain historical events and perhaps show them from a, let's say, less than academic accepted slant. Or less colloquially accepted slant. And let's not get into the denial of the Dresden bombings or the denial of the Holocaust and all that shit. What's that bullshit historian who does that shit?
Dresden bombings? Oh, denying that's Irving. Irving's a cunt.
Oh, David Irving. What a fucking nutcase. Anyway, I'm not saying David Irving the adventure game.
I used to live in Coventry. Dresden was in response to what happened to Coventry. If you've ever gone to Coventry, I'm not saying Dresden is justified. I'm just saying I can see why it happened. And also, I can point you...
Can you kick David Irving in the ass, please?
I can point you in the direction of a Welsh bartender who will agree with me.
So can I. He hangs out at my favorite pub. Anyway,
it's just Welsh people. At least it's better than fucking.
I do agree with Gareth, but there is
of course you do. I'm amazing.
Yeah, you're bromance, extramarital affair. Anyway, something that is to be said is that obviously he is speaking on a very high level, being a historian.
Yeah, I don't talk to normal.
and I'm drunk. It doesn't show. But
does.
you know, obviously, something that is to be said about the historical settings of stuff that actually happened is that you've got great fucking narratives in there, and some of them haven't been exploited. Couldn't you do an amazing fucking adventure game set in the American Civil War? The Danish War of 1864.
I don't know what that is.
Well, Well, that was us getting our asses handed to us. World War I, World War II.
This is basically the entire history of Denmark. We got our asses anyone.
Well, I already said 1864, so you know I'm talking about stuff where we butt fucked. So I might.
But okay.
Bow down to
okay.
Fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Sorry. Most historical. Let's just put a sock in this dude's mouth for a second.
Shut up, Trey.
Thank you. Most historical stories, narratives, not just adventure games, but stories, movies, books, whatever you have. They always, if they're trying to tell, let's say, a fictional story, you guys know where I'm getting at. They're trying to tell, main character, he said, she said, kind of like a narrative plot kind of thing, instead of just writing out like a fucking paper or a history book or anything of the sort. You always have to sort of bend reality a bit. You always have to go a bit Dan Brown on it, or you always have to sort of get into the historical fantasy kind of thing.
No, okay.
Elements.
What you're basically saying is that there is a macro history that helps to set what's going on. You can have Napoleonic War, you can have World War II, you can have World War One, and that has a whole set of connotations based in it that allows you to tell a story that doesn't actually have to have much historical accuracy, but because you've set it in World War II, there are so many connotations that you can go with certain narrative arcs that will work.
Well, yeah, but that's always bothered me. That's always really bothered me. Like when they go to do a movie about Pearl Harbor. All right, fine, it's Michael fucking Bay, but I mean, the dude just, you've got a girl and a guy, and then they are kind of in the thing, like Titanic. You've got a girl and a guy, and they're kind of in the thing.
Pearl Harbor.
Oh, fuck.
More than that movie missed the point. And that's an awful lot, girl. Now that you've gone away,
Never gonna give you up.
There's nothing left to say except Pearl Harbor sucks. And I miss you. No, I agree with that. I agree with that on an academic level, but I also, on an academic level, also understand that there is a grander narrative that is in people's heads that
there is
independent. Now, I recently read a draft paper by a guy who does oral histories, which to some people would just be interviewing old folks before they fucking die, which, is not,
for a really, really weird form of porn.
But I wouldn't call that porn. But only based on my picadillos, because I've spent exactly. I've spent half an hour with Fred. I'm good for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The point.
He sucks a phenomenal dick.
The point being, here is the basis of his paper, which I hope he publishes. Is this? He has a story based on his oral history with his grandparents, which is his grandfather died on a merchant seaman vessel. Giggity. His father died on a merchant seaman vessel in 1940. They were transporting arms across the Atlantic, and his vessel was sunk by a German U-boat. And that's a story, essentially. Now, if you follow his family history, the story goes on. And his grandfather's death affects his grandmother very hard. She's in Aberdeen. She's not from Aberdeen, but she's there. She's there as an English woman of a Scottish husband who has been killed in the merchant navy. And she can't rely on that many people around her because she doesn't know that many people around her.
Also, there's cliffs everywhere.
Yeah, and her sons grow up in a single-parent household in a very, very difficult circumstances in Scotland, which, you know, I'm British, I'm English. I wouldn't grow up in Scotland. It's full of alcoholics and people who can't pronounce the word "och."
This is ethics and Britishness.
No, it's nothing to do with ethics. It's just that the Scots suck. The point.
Yeah, tell that to Jenny Pattinson, please.
Yeah. My tongue is very firmly in its cheek because I'm telling a very sad story. And
I can tell. Oh yeah, please do go on.
I see myself as a comedian, and I don't do sincerity, but I'm going to have to do sincerity because it's a sad story.
I remember that you told me when I said thank you very much for your Pete Toleman submission, like a couple of seasons back. You went, I don't do this.
Yes, exactly. I on an intellectual level, I am very sincere for everything that you and Fred do, and I love your show. But that's not my character. That's not my on-screen persona. So I'm going to have to shoot on you.
I get that, and please keep going. I love that.
Shit all you want.
The point is, his grandmother had to grow up as a young woman with 2 or 3 children.
And a Jedi.
None of them were Jedi. Shut up, Troy.
Sorry. I am not interrupting you anymore.
Let's try and let's try and keep on going. Actually, this is video games related. Eventually, if you let me finish the story.
I know. I'm desperately waiting. Please.
This is Professor Graham Smith. He's at Royal Holloway, University of London. You should look him up. I will sing his praises to the hilt because he trained me to be an oral historian. I think he's amazing. And I have told him as such. In fact, my last email to him was to say that this last paper that he sent me was fucking amazing, direct quote. The point is that he told this story about how his grandfather had died in the merchant navy. So he wasn't technically part of the real navy. He was basically part of the British militia back in the 40s. And I can explain to you the nuances, but you don't actually want to know them. The point is, shot down by a German U-boat. And he tells a story of how his grandmother had to cope with being a widow in her mid-20s, bringing up his father's generation of kids. This is a sad story.
Why is Fred laughing? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, he loves widows.
Yeah. He's like widows are really fucking funny, man. Well, if there's something I love, it's like an elderly lady crying while I pound her in the. Please keep going.
Yes.
Jedis and game show.
Well, he's just blurting out 2-syllable words at this point.
It is a sad story, and it is difficult to.
I want to see this to the end.
Yeah, but it is a difficult story to tell. I mean, and we don't want to tell it because it's a horrible story. It's a woman who grows up depressed, having to bring up 2 or 3 children, and I don't remember the specifics, and that makes me a bad person. But she had to bring up 2 or 3 children, one of whom was Professor Smith's father, in Scotland.
Stop laughing.
In a depressed fishing area where the economy is based around fishing. She manages to bring him up. She manages to bring up this father who brings up this son who goes on to be an academic. But it's a very difficult and it's a very... I'm
so sorry. I'm laughing in my ass.
The situation I'm in is funny. The story isn't.
No, it's because I can tell the dude is
about a woman who eventually commits suicide because she's so depressed.
Oh,
can we be clear about this?
Yes,
can we be clear?
Yeah, very clear about. I think the problem is we've reached a point where whenever I hear you,
Fred, get out of camera, please. Let the man finish his story.
This is about ethics in Aberdeen.
Yes.
In the 1930s. Anyway.
All right.
Right.
Let's tell the story from a different aspect. What about if you are interested in U-boat simulations? What if you are interested about computer games that are based in the 1940s and the 1930s, based on U-boats run by the Nazi regime, or even submarines that were run by the American or British or even Danish? Oh no, you weren't involved in World War II, were you?
No, we just laid down flat.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
I have other stories based on my other interests, based on you lying down flat.
But
And
let's
actually,
be fair. I mean,
no.
Denmark in World War II was a case of no Vaseline.
Let's not get there. No, really, no. Okay.
Yeah.
U-boat simulations that are not codename Iceman, please.
Am I allowed to tell my story?
Yes.
Because two things. One, you lying down in World War II means that we have cured polio. And two, let's move on.
Okay, cool. Really?
Let's tell a story from a different because there was a game called Silent Assassin, I believe, that was released by Dynamics on Windows 5 PCs. That whatever. Yeah, I believe that Mark Crow took some dollar from them.
That's about ethics and relocation.
Let me be perfectly clear. Mark Crow is not a Nazi.
Not as far as we know, anyway.
No.
I'm sure you appreciate.
Too many lawyers listening. The point is that this game called Silent Assassin was based on, I believe it's called Silent Assassin. I might be wrong, and people will probably Ian the IRC channel calling us cunts right now. But the point is that there was a game that was basically a U-boat simulation, which is described as one of the most realistic U-boat simulations, and it was based on oral testimony from German U-boat commanders who were high-ranking members of the Nazi Party during the 1940s, and they talked about their experiences of commanding U-boats.
Really?
Yeah. About all these things.
That is brilliant. I did not know that.
Yeah, and they built this U-boat simulation, and you go out in these U-boats and you shoot down British merchant seaman vessels, you shoot down British Navy vessels, you shoot down American Navy vessels, you shoot down, well, basically the Allies, whoever they may be at the particular time, and that's what all the missions are based around. And so this is what Professor Smith's thesis of this paper, which he's only in draft form and he'll probably kill me for publicising, is based on
this. Who gives a shit?
We have two versions of historical memory here. We have the version of the Smith family, of a woman who killed herself, of a woman who, in very difficult circumstances, tried to bring up a family and just could not deal with the stress and broke herself because her husband had been killed as the result of a successful U-boat mission. And you have a video game in which, in one of the levels, your role is to shoot down the specific boat upon which this man served.
Ouch.
You have to shoot down this boat as part of the game. And it's a game. And there is a Let's Play video, not by Loco Loki, it's by somebody else, in which you have to shoot down this particular boat. And he describes his feelings as he puts the boat in his target and he loads the torpedo bay and he shoots down this boat. Now, for this person, I'm glad you're interested in this. I'm glad that this is hitting a no, because
finally we get to the point.
It is striking a chord.
When I read this paper, it was like a fuck kind of moment. You watch this video of this man killing this professor's grandfather, pretty much, and you listen to him on the YouTube video describing the feelings that go through his head as he develops this mission, as he puts the boat in his targets, and as he shoots them. And then you go through the wider history, and you go through how Ubisoft and Dynamix put together the game. And you see how they used testimony from an actual U-boat pilot who, quite frankly, probably should have been up on war crimes. But, you know, history is written by the winners, and I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to put myself in a legal position where I'm saying this. You know, he's probably dead anyway. Who gives a shit? You know. So you've got all this oral testimony from this guy who actually commanded a U-boat, which they've used to build this simulation. You've got these historical records that they've used to build the levels so that they're taking part in historically relevant missions. You've got these people who are called, in the technical term, they're called grognards, which is based on the French term G-R-O-G-N-A-R-D-S. People who play Dungeons and Dragons will know what that term means, apparently, according to Professor Morissette.
Which is very dissimilar from gonads.
Yeah, it's very dissimilar. It's very dissimilar to gonads. It refers to people who prefer historical accuracy to what you and I would call fun. They would rather have a simulation that was historically accurate than one that was easy to play or one that had rewarding narrative. And this is one of the reasons why I believe it's called Silent Assassin. If I'm wrong, I'm very, very sorry. I will give you the information for your show notes later on that you can put on your website. Well, we don't
deal with non-adventure games, so we don't give a shit.
Well, I know you have no professional standards, but I like to pretend that you do. The point being that there are two very different stories being told here. There is the story of the man whose wife's life was ruined by a U-boat mission. And you have the story of a group of people who live vicariously through a U-boat mission that went right, but actually destroyed probably hundreds of lives on that ship.
Where you actually have to commit the atrocity that was the undoing of someone's life.
It's something that I get the feeling that is something that strategy and simulation games have gotten into where adventure games haven't. You know, one thing that I've always kind of admired and have felt repulsed by, you know, at the same time, is that in Command & Conquer Red Alert, you can play as Stalin. You can play as the communists, and you can conquer the world. You can, in this bizarre alternate history, you can bring the world to its communist knees. And it's just.
But I like the idea of.
It's somewhere where adventure games haven't gotten. I guess the closest you get is Beneath the Steel Sky, but you know, again, Beneath the Steel Sky is post-apocalyptical. It's something that takes place in the future. It's Mad Max in a sense.
Although, from what I remember, again, I don't want to cut you off because I'm not as bad as Trolls.
Go ahead.
You know, I know Trolls. He interrupts you all the time, and it's not fair, mate.
Yeah, this is my show. He's my co-host.
You shouldn't stop.
Why do I have to be the Paul Schaefer? He's the one balding. I'm not the one balding. I have
come on! You guys were so close to a point, and then you got fucking derailed. Please get to the fucking point.
Just having fun at your expense.
I know.
Post-apocalyptic worlds rely upon a rereading of history. They rely upon popular narratives about the macro level of history. This idea that okay, we went from being cavemen, and then we learned to farm, and then we lived in cities, and then we learned how the internet worked, and then we blew each other up. And
sure.
Then kind of history kind of repeats itself at that point, right? That's kind of what you're on about.
They're all based on that massive macro level history, which. They have to rely on a collective memory, otherwise they wouldn't work. I mean, post-apocalyptic narratives would not work, and sci-fi would not work unless there were common narrative signposts which people could hitch their wagon to. Otherwise, they just wouldn't make any sense.
Oh, no, obviously, post-apocalyptic. Shut up, Fred.
No,
Shut up,
no, Fred is not going to shut up. This isn't about it.
Right, no, because post-apocalyptic narratives rely on the fears that we have as contemporary humans. Please let me. I haven't said anything for 30 seconds. Please let me get in.
Let the man speak.
Go on.
Right. Post-apocalyptic narratives, like Beneath the Steel Sky, like everything else you can throw at us, like Neuromancer in the literary world, they all rely on fears that we have in the current world, extrapolated into fears of what we might perceive as the near future. 1984 by George Orwell being the prime example of that.
Absolutely, but 1984 is based on history.
1984 was originally supposed to be called 1948. It was supposed to.
No, but my point is that every post-apocalyptic scenario is based on fears of a current age and a current like a current disassociation from
fear of post World War II Britain. Where are we gonna go?
Also, may I point this out?
Yeah, go on.
I studied at the University of London. I currently study at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is a member of the University of London. And our main library is Senate House. I will send you pictures of Senate House, but you've already seen it if you've seen the Nolan Batman series, because all of their court scenes were filmed in that building. It is the quintessence. Don't open a beer with that face.
Is that including the rogue court scenes in the last one, The Dark Knight Rises? Because
including the one that he's in.
Yeah, because I'm in those.
I was definitely going to say. I thought you were going to say it looks like the Ministry of Love.
The point is that the Senate House, with the library in which those are set, not only did Hitler pinpoint those as the officers he was going to use once he'd invaded England.
Really?
They are the basis of the Ministry of Truth from 1984.
Oh, God.
It is what I studied in.
Fantastic.
So I am the perfect... I am the perfect architect, but they call me a butcher.
Well, that is actually we're taping this in room 101 right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So where's the red face mask? Are we gonna bring that out anytime soon?
I got that behind the couch.
No, because I didn't want it to come before I was ready.
Yeah, right. That's terribly.
I was about to say something.
Terribly unnerving.
Yeah, let's get back onto the episode because we are actually recording.
I don't actually remember what I was gonna say. So.
Something about historical narrative. Now, what I think Gareth was going on about was that there are always two sides of a historical account, and like we said, history is written by the winners. So you can't. No, he's shaking his head. This is exactly not what he was talking about. But this is my point anyway. It's interesting to build narrative stories around people who were involved in historical events. It's not interesting to tell narrative stories about historical events. It's interesting to tell stories about people who were involved in historical events, and their accounts may be apocryphal, they may be unreliable, but they may be their own accounts of what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to tackle that because I
threw you off, didn't I?
No, because I'm putting on my academic hat and I don't want to be a dick.
Please be a dick and have your academic hat on at the same time.
No. I'm going to do both, and the fact that I'm doing this gesture means that I am.
Is that the universal symbol for wanking?
Yeah, pretty much. And especially when you've got as small a dick as I did. The point is, I agree with you in the sense that the whole thing that history is written by the winners makes sense, because the historical narratives that we have to deal with are the ones that pervade in the winners' culture. I mean, we are in The Americans won World War II, and that is very obvious to us as Europeans. And I see myself as European.
Yeah.
Oh
well,
yeah.
And they kind of swept in and kind of took shit over, and and
we are Europeans, and I am a Europhile. I love the European Union. I'm a leftist. I think the way that you in Denmark live your life is a way to emulate with all of those problems that are attendant with
But you wouldn't be here unless the Americans saved you.
And I wouldn't be here if the Americans weren't paying me to be here.
Yeah.
The point is, I am literally being paid by an American to be here. The point is, that on the base level, I agree with you that the whole kind of, there's two sides to every story. Actually, there's 1,000 sides to every story.
Actually, it's about ethics. Journalism.
Nope.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? You're going to go with that? Really? Really?
Yeah, really.
Really?
Shut up, Tro.
Really? No,
I didn't say anything.
Actually, in this conversation, trolls isn't the problem, it's you. No,
I was waiting
to change
on that.
But the whole point that the stories that we tell are based on the dominant narrative.
Exactly.
Is very, very clear. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up, if I was allowed to bring up, because I don't want to, this is your show. And I genuinely,
go ahead.
I genuinely love your show. I don't want to take it over as much as I want to
dominate
attention because I'm an egotist.
No, go ahead. Take it over. Take it over. This is your time.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There is a story that it's been covered mostly by Roberta Bivens, who is at the University of Warwick and who is an excellent historian. Roberta Bivens, please look her up. Please look up her papers on this because they are genuinely amazing.
And please look up her Black Cauldron as well.
No, that's Roberta Williams. That is very, very different. Very, very different.
All right.
Okay, here is a story that we have simultaneously come across. She has happened to publish before me, therefore she gets the credit. This is how history works.
Yeah, that's how academics work.
In Christmas, 1961.
One man.
No, four, actually.
Four men.
Four men.
In a world.
In a world in which you can catch a plane.
Can we put duct tape over Fred's mouth?
You can catch a plane from Karachi.
Shut up, Fred.
From Karachi, Pakistan. I'm not happy with this.
No, neither am I.
You're the one who got the trailer going.
Four men came across from Karachi, Pakistan around about Christmas 1961. And in Karachi at that time, there was an epidemic of smallpox, which isn't good.
No.
If you know anything about smallpox, it's not.
Just like a motherfucker.
It's not good.
It isn't good in a country that isn't prepared for it, so.
The last person to die of smallpox died in Birmingham, by the way, which is where I'm from. But anyway.
Nice.
Bomber.
It was you, wasn't it?
Oh, fucking Birmingham.
You're a zombie.
Oh, I love being from Birmingham. It's amazing. The point is,
everyone talks in falsetto in Birmingham.
Oh, everybody talks in falsetto from Birmingham. The crazy train.
Honestly, you're starting to sound like Keeping Out Appearances, like Mrs. Bucket.
They were from London.
It's Bouquet.
Never mind.
It is Bouquet.
Carry on.
No, I feel like I'm not allowed to finish this. The point is...
Sorry, Fred. I'll let you speak in a minute.
This is the most...
If there was ever a point.
I'm sorry, Gareth. This is the most rambling episode we've ever done.
Late 1961. Karachi, Pakistan. There is an epidemic of smallpox. People from Karachi, Pakistan come to England because...
None of them know karate.
Karachi.
No, sorry.
I realised that my... I realised that was not helpful.
No, yeah, right.
Oh, I hate it.
You go on.
But this is a story that I think could be told, and actually part of the reason that I'm doing this is because part of my ego hopes that some person who can do art and coding will listen to this and take this up.
Wrong audience.
Wrong.
Actually,
wrong
that is-
audience. Oh, yeah.
Actually, that is what I hope you will eventually get at. Is the point of these stories that you're telling will be that this is somehow related tangentially to adventure game design, where you can tell a narrative story that has historical relevance that will somehow. Please take that sentence any way you want.
Gets it.
Absolutely, and I'm very surprised that you could tell that story correctly.
Okay, cool.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, this is the point. This is the kind of thing that history can do, and this is what micro history can do. The idea that you take a specific set of stories that are based around a specific narrative, and you can tell a specific story. And it worked with Ginsberg when he was telling the story about the cheese and the worms, and it worked with Natalie Zimmerman Davis when she was telling the story of Martin Guerre. And I believe that you can tell the same story here with smallpox with Pakistan. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Smallpox, the adventure game.
And I genuinely believe you can tell this story, and I believe you can tell it with adventure games, and I believe that the best.
Fred is just a distraction at this point.
If anybody's still listening to this, please stick with this.
Yeah.
I believe that the same story can be told
With Quest for Smallpox.
with the quest. Yeah, the quest for smallpox. Whatever. Let me tell you the story, and you will understand what the quest is.
Can you pitch it as an adventure game?
I genuinely believe that adventure games are a good way of telling this story because they will make you an active participant as either the oppressive force or the liberating force. But as the oppressing force, you may learn more if you become the arsehole than you would learn from being the modern, liberal, this is how we're supposed to respond to this story. So, Christmas time, 1961, 4 people from Karachi, Pakistan, come to England by plane, which is a new technology, and it creates new fears.
And also crashes.
No crashes.
Shut up.
There are no crashes.
I'm trying to interject drama here. I'm sorry.
No, actually.
That is the
hold on. Sorry. You don't.
Most stupid setup ever. I mean, does the DeLorean show up?
I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry.
A couple of dozen deaths from smallpox in a country that no longer has smallpox isn't dramatic enough. Smallpox. Do you not think smallpox is dramatic enough?
I'm very sorry for not acknowledging the terrible, itchy devil that is the smallpox.
40% of people who got smallpox the 1970s died of it.
Did you ever have the pox when you were a child? You know, the chicken pox that we usually get around here in childhood?
Yeah. Chicken pox.
I know.
Chicken pox is like the Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah. Do you remember
death?
I've seen photos of boils.
I'm trying to reach him here to make him see how ridiculous his plane crash idea is. Do you remember?
I just randomly.
Remember?
I apologized.
Do you remember those big red splotches on your balls that you just had to scratch at?
Do you remember the way I touched your
eyes? Your balls of you. Remember? I scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch.
4.
Right, the man was talking about smallpox.
4 people in late 1961 came to England with smallpox and infected the local population. There were outbreaks in Bradford, in Cardiff, and in the West Midlands, where I am from.
Nice. You've got smallpox, don't you?
We used to. Actually, the last person to die of smallpox. The last person to die of wild smallpox died in Somalia in 1977. The last
no more for today.
The last person to die of smallpox died in 1979 as a result of an outbreak from the University of Birmingham, who didn't keep close enough attention to their smallpox culture that they had in their lab.
Oh my god!
Oh, so it just broke loose. Controlled smallpox broke loose.
It just broke loose. The guy.
No, what he did was he dipped his fucking testicles in the petri dish that he wasn't supposed to.
The thing with this guy, he was also involved with a 1975 I think it was 75 outbreak at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, where I currently study. He was also involved with an outbreak there because he hadn't put it in the right place. And so following the 79 outbreak, he actually killed himself because of the guilt.
Ouch.
Well, no fucking wonder, because apparently the guy was a fucking idiot.
Well, the point is that I'm going to try and write a book about this, so it's going to be great fun. It's going to be a bestseller of the happy-go-lucky type.
I'll gladly write the forward.
This is going to be the train spotting of history.
Idiot.
I'm writing a book on this, so I don't want to get it all the way, obviously. But okay, Roberta Bivens, she's written a paper on this. Hold on.
And you can make a companion adventure game.
This is the narrative that I want to present to adventure game aficionados and designers, and I want to see whether you think this is the kind of thing that could be told through adventure games, or maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, and this is not the right avenue for adventure games, and this is not the kind of thing that you could tell. But
everyone stop listening anyway.
Here's how I see it as a historian. Okay, late 1961. 4 people from Karachi with smallpox land in England and end up infecting the local population. Now, this happens at exactly the same time as an anti-immigration bill is passing through Parliament.
Yeah, Enoch Powell.
Enoch Powell.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, you know more about English history than I do.
Well, I'm a Beatles fan, and Beatles would actually Beatles were recording their Get Back album during 1969, and they would.
So it's actually musician history, but.
They would reference the whole Enoch Powell anti-immigration movement there, and one early version of Get Back actually has lyrics, equating to Pakistanis go back to where you belong, as a sort of satire over that whole situation.
Get back where you belong? Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows more than most English people do. Anyway, these people come across. It causes this existential crisis. There's this bill that goes through Parliament about trying to restrict immigration. There are stories about how in parts of the country, barbers will refuse to cut the hair of Pakistanis because they're frightened of getting smallpox. You have goods that come into docks in London and in various other ports, and if they're from Pakistan, they'll get turned away because these goods will apparently have smallpox. You have anybody with brown skin that ends up being the victim of very serious racist abuse because people just assume, well, you've got brown skin, you've probably got smallpox, and all these other kind of things. And so my interest in this as a historian is that there are a number of narratives that you could tell here. I mean, you could tell the papers, please kind of story and say you can only let people through who have accurate smallpox certificates, because you had to have a smallpox certificate to get into England at the time. The point was that these things were forged. And so you could tell that. You could tell the story of being a Pakistani who has no contact with smallpox and has to deal with English society that treats them like criminals simply for the fact that they speak a bit funny and have the wrong coloured skin.
And it turns out in the end that you have smallpox.
Maybe.
No, wait. Sorry.
Well, you could tell many.
Now we're getting to the realm of fantastical history.
Because many adventure game stories. Many of the adventure games that we hail are stories about the underdog. I mean, Beneath the Steel Sky is the story about Robert Foster, who finds out he's Robert Overman.
I love that he keeps bringing up Beneath the Steel Sky, because that's my favorite adventure game.
Well, Beneath the Steel Sky is a great fucking game. You've got Space Quest 2, where you're Roger Wilco pitted on your own against Vohal's forces of 8 men. Space Quest 4 too, for that matter. So yeah, you could make something like this work. I agree with Gareth, but it's something that hasn't really been applied. I can't recall.
Let me ask you guys this.
Playing a historical adventure game, short of hearing about Gold Rush. I haven't played it, but I've heard of it.
All I would add as caveats is, number one, this is a micro history. It's based on a very small set of events that happened between December 1961 and about March 1962. And I could provide you with the historical sources, but I think a better storyteller than I would need to put those together.
But excuse me for a minute. Did the Enoch Powell movement
Hey, you guys,
Or was it all?
talk amongst yourselves. I'm just gonna go Tycho for a bit.
And that's kind of part of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
guys-
yeah.
you guys read
There's a larger macro history to be told here. But my point is that there is a micro history to tell here, and there are multiple ways that you can tell that, and you can make, because what I really love about adventure games is that they put you in the part of the protagonist, and you can be the protagonist as the disenfranchised Pakistani, but you could also be the protagonist as the arsehole Westerner at the same
Yeah,
time.
the one who has to keep the fucking Pakistani out of the country.
Well, that is kind of what I liked about.
Guys,
That is
guys,
kind of
guys.
like no, shut up, Tro. That is kind of what.
No, really, because I'm about to burst here. I really have to go Tycho.
Okay, go Tiger.
So please discuss micro history amongst yourselves,
Enter
or just
stage. Hello,
or just leave
I'm not
from the
the
camera.
Quest historian.
It's amazing.
More boob. It's your resident Killian Murphy lookalike ready to take the stage. So anyway, we got no one watching this at this moment, but something that I wanted to say was that one thing that I have noticed, having been in the adventure game scene for, I suppose, a little over a decade, is that we're a very leftist. You know, the adventure game scene basically tends to attract academics. And at least here in this country, I can't speak for any other countries because it varies hugely. I'm aware of that. But academics here tend to be very, very leftist. So the idea of telling a story in any kind of medium, you know, interactive or not, will invariably attract leftist people. So that, in my mind, would be why we haven't seen more historical adventure games, because it isn't that attractive to us most of the time. It isn't attractive to, if you were really paranoid, you would say that we were trying to apply a leftist agenda to it. And I suppose it might be true. We aren't interested in telling the rightmost story. What would, in my opinion, be really fucking interesting, and this may happen 10 or 20 years down the line, but wouldn't it be fucking interesting to tell a story about a guy with the SS serving under Hitler? You know, and I don't see why not. You know, it's a narrative, it's a story to be told, and I'm trying fiercely, as admittedly a leftist, to be open like that. I think there is a shitload of stories to be told here that we have yet to tell. Hey, Gareth, I'm just telling the world how I think we should have adventure games set in World War II that has some people playing for Hitler.
Well, I genuinely believe that the whole idea that you're either on one side or the other is clearly, historically, that makes no sense.
I don't know if you heard anything from the bathroom of what I was saying, but what I was getting at was that, at least in this country, and in my opinion, the adventure game scene, we are sort of leftist. So it makes sense that any kind of story we tell will be skewered to kind of appeal to that view. And I don't know, it's kind of hit me recently, because I'm a major Space Quest fan, obviously, and I'm a regular over the spacequest.net forums, and whenever we have someone over there visiting who mentions that he's a conservative or whatnot, we'll just, go, oh my God, why are you here?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it is a slippery slope. I am aware of that, but I truly do hope that someday we will reach a point where there is no taboo about the story we tell in games.
Well, but by the same token, if you tell any story that challenges the dominant narrative, by the very definition of that, that is anti-conservative. I mean, if conservative is the status quo, And any story that tries to challenge that narrative is automatically going to be anti-conservative. You're automatically going to piss off anybody that is from the right wing of
that is true, and I have been known to be very status quo. I mean, I would argue that most Sierra fans have proved to be status quo. You know, in the wake of the news that the Gentlemen are developing a King's Quest game. I mean, many King's Quest fans have, in my opinion, proved to be status quo because they refuse to believe that you can't do a King's Quest game unless it's point and click.
But by the same token, I mean, one of the successes of the Sierra brand was that they were able to capture the cultural zeitgeist of the time. So if they were able to sell to a particular bunch of people at a particular time, then it's not entirely surprising that a very success was towards a sort of a, you know.
But they were looking forward. I mean, they were not really status quo at any point.
At that time, but now those people are the people that have grown up, and they're the people that have...
Exactly, you know, then now the status quo is what was groundbreaking in 1991.
Exactly.
I mean, so...
I'm back, by the way.
We noticed, but we just don't care.
I know. It's amazing. So anyway, I was having a good long think on the can.
Okay.
About what you said about historical point of view and how that would translate into an adventure game and how you would ostensibly try to play different sides of historical events.
That is much better than what I prepared in your absence, because what I prepared in your absence was basically saying that I would love to see an adventure game where you had an SS guy in the Shadows of Hitler. You know.
Wow. Okay, that is totally not where I was going.
Well, jokes aside, I hope there will be a day where no narrative is taboo.
Well, no. Obviously, no one wants a taboo subject because one of the freedoms of being able to tell a story is exactly the freedom of being able to tell the story. It is not being censored for your thoughts. I mean, David Irving can go piss himself, and I hope he does, and I hope he pisses himself to death. But at least he has.
Hold on. No, by the same token, being taboo is in itself quite a liberating experience by deliberately going against the grain.
Oh, right, but ignoring historical fact is not the same as telling a historical event from two different perspectives. For instance, off a memory block, Joe recently covered Spycraft: The Great Game, which is a game I didn't know anything about. It turns out that this was a game that was developed by some dudes who got the
Microprose game. I know of it. I've seen the artwork. I've seen.
Don't care. The important part is that they got the They got the assistance of a former CIA executive, and they got the assistance of a former KGB officer. So they've got you know, Americans and Russians working together to sort of figure out, you know, first of all, what are the spying tools that we were using against each other during the Cold War, and second, what do you each think are the biggest political dangers or catastrophes that might eventually occur? And so they both came up with this you know, plot thing that the game revolves around. But that's, you know, that's bringing together different you know, the different paths of historical narrative together to form one. I like that idea. What, did I stun you?
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as a British person, I mean, it's like, well, whatever the KGB and the FBI were, or the CIA were involved.
CIA, whatever.
I don't care. I mean,
but still, these are two opposing forces in a you know, during the Cold War in the 1960s. These were you know, at complete opposite sides of each other, and for a computer game to actually bring consultants in from not only the CIA but also the KGB to influence a story about global espionage, that's kind of an interesting idea.
It is an interesting idea, but it is very much based on the overall dominant narrative of how the world exists. I mean, it's still based on the sort of the macro narrative of how the world
That's
played out
true.
in 1940, 1990.
That's true. That's true. So what you are suggesting is that we should move beyond that. We should move into the, like you said, the micro-history, the micro-narrative of historical events, not what global superpowers are doing about shit that's going on in the world, but getting down into the nitty-gritty, like the personal stories of people involved in these macro-history events.
I don't think it's an either or. I mean, I think that there's an interesting story to be told to a particular bunch of people about the CIA against the KGB, but then there's also very interesting micro histories to be told about between, I don't know, the Gestapo and the French Resistance, or between the Vichy government and the French Resistance, or between.
No, you were talking about micro histories, like a singular person involved in something greater than themselves, and them trying to cope with that situation that they found themselves in. That's micro history.
Hmm.
And of course, any story involving a person in a particular place in history is by definition a microhistory, because you are involved in a certain geopolitical situation that you are unwittingly a part of.
Yeah.
So if we were to do an adventure game about Denmark rolling over like a pathetic lapdog during the 1930s, then that would be a part of microhistory. Because you'd be focusing on Fred and me. If Fred and me were alive in the 1930s, we would be a couple of pussies hiding under the bed. Okay, we would be having fantasies about blowing shit up. We wouldn't actually do it. Fred, would you do it?
Well, that's true. I actually have family who died blowing shit up during that era.
I had a grandfather who went to concentration camp.
Resistance guy, but I probably wouldn't do it myself. No, I would dream of it, but I wouldn't dare doing it.
No, I had a grandfather who went to concentration camp because he was actually part of the resistance.
Wow.
That was he oddly he never talked about it.
Well, these are stories to tell.
I actually have a funny anecdote, and this is totally irrelevant, but I have a funny anecdote, which was that there was this guy in my family.
What over that? That wasn't funny enough?
No, there was this guy in my family who got shot by the Germans.
Oh, the historian's laughing.
And what happened was that, a couple of years later, there was a family gathering. I suppose it'd be in 50s, 60s, and someone was holding a speech. And they were talking about this guy who got shot, who died, and everyone was sad, except for this one woman who wore a hearing aid that didn't work. She couldn't hear properly. So while everyone is gathering their feels because of the story about this guy who got shot by the Germans, she leans over to the person sitting next to her and goes, "Good one."
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, that is how my family operates. Actually, I'll let you in on a little secret. I am related to the last person publicly executed in Denmark.
Yay! Let's carry on that tradition, shall we?
I think he burned some dogs and was I'm not sure if it's the last one publicly executed, because we kind of went at it with the German sympathizers after.
Wait a minute. Do we execute people who burn dogs? I mean, not that it's not horrible, but that's still.
Yeah, not dog as in the animal, but dog as in a harbor.
A dock.
Yeah, and he burned some of those, and he got. I think I might be related to the last person publicly hanged in Denmark. I'm not sure. I think that's how the story goes, anyway.
So that would explain why you roll your eyes all the time.
Yeah.
All I'd say at
you know-
that point is that the story of someone who loses isn't necessarily a bad story for an adventure game.
That's true. That's true.
All right,
Well-
so guys, just to bring this into a nice
Yeah,
little neat bow. Whatever.
Speaking of the story of someone who loses. Anyway, I agree with Gareth because
Of course you do.
let me point out that some of the adventure games that we inherently like, and I know this is backseat designers, so we have to come up with some sort of general advice, but it's also very much colored by who we are. And we like stories about the underdogs. We like stories about Roger Wilco. So Gareth is absolutely right. Doing an adventure game story about someone who turned out to be the historical loser may not inherently be bad. You could, God forgive me for this if it turns out there is a heaven and hell. You could totally do Roger Wilco as a Nazi loser. You could have so much fun with that. I mean, Jesus fuck! In retrospect, the Nazi regime was fucking funny because of the high reverence that they held this, pseudo-Roman bullshit in. You could have fun with the losers. You absolutely.
But the Nazis weren't underdogs.
I think my point was more that you could tell the story of a Danish resistance person who ended up losing, because you end up telling the story eventually of a person who believed that the Nazis were evil, tried to stand up to them but couldn't,
which was not the popular opinion at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you could have fun with that certainly, but what I didn't, I never meant to imply that the Nazis were underdogs. Certainly not. But the German people were absolutely losers of that. I mean, the people who were in power did fucking great, being able to take cyanide in the Führerbunker. But the actual people were losers.
Now, this is going on into a deep territory.
You could tell many stories of that. You could tell great fucking stories about the people who ended up in the crossfire, and you could.
But there are other stories to tell. I mean, we're from the Northern Europe, so obviously, the Nazi World War II kind of thing, that's kind of close to us. There are plenty of other stories to tell that have, micro histories and macro history connotations. There's plenty of that shit. I mean, everything that goes on in Africa, everything that goes on with apartheid and such, you could tell very emotional stories about that.
Stuff I read up on when doing comparative literature, absolutely beautiful. The Decameron, Dante's Inferno, beautiful histories.
Actually, let's put this to our guests, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's put it to the guest that's currently waving his ass off. Please show me your ass. No,
not in my.
That's not your ass. What scenario in history? I don't mean specifics. I don't mean specific people. I don't mean specific periods in history. But just what period in history do you feel is a period that's sorely lacking in narrative development, be it literature or game development, and what sort of adventure game would benefit from an examination of this nature?
That is such a. I mean, I think ironically it is the Second World War, because there have been so many stories told about the Second World War, but they're very much from a particular. They're very much from the particular sort of political point of view of, Hitler lost, the Americans and Churchill won, and that is the sort of the story of the Second World War. But it's the world in which we live. 1945 was a massive changing point for the world that we all live in.
But there's been so many stories about World War II. I mean, there's been stories from every side of it.
Well,
They're very much-
not really in adventure games. I mean, I'm thinking of
Oh
Indiana
no,
Jones
sure.
and Atlantis, but that's like the only adventure game that I can think of currently that deals
Oh,
with
sure.
World War II.
Sure. I just meant broad literature. Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Millwood, sir.
It's Dr. Millward, actually.
Thank you. Shut up, trolls.
Yeah.
Not trolls,
No,
trolls.
but I think those broad sort of, you know, X versus Y stories have been told a lot, but there are other stories to be told, I think, there. And I don't know. I mean, I think the stories that we don't tell are the ones around the 70s and the 80s. I mean, if you're a European right now, you're living in a world that's been constructed by Thatcher and Reagan. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know because I'm English, but I don't know that the sort of the resistance to that has been told. Really, I don't know that there are enough. I don't know if there are enough adventure games about gay pride. I don't know if there are enough adventure games about Martin Luther King Jr. I don't know if there are enough adventure games about the disability rights movement. Or
that
about,
actually hit a mark. Because, you know, listening to you tell about civil rights, listening to you tell about gay pride. No, there are no adventure games of that. There are strategy games where you can play as the commies. There are strategy games where you can play as the allies. But there are no adventure games about this. I mean, there are adventure games where you play as. In fact, Serena Nelson had one game done, and you know. The author of the game purports that it's a total coincidence, but about space princess Serena who is defeating the evil troll. You know,
I did not have anything to do with that.
I know, but you have simulations. You have simulations and strategy in the sim genre and action. You don't actually have adventure games. Exploring the human trauma, exploring the human condition, and that's what adventure games do. So it's a wasted opportunity.
But is there a sort of sense?
I would argue, based on what you have said, that we simply don't have any good historical adventure games. We don't have shit. And it's such a wasted opportunity.
Well, there are people who have tried. There are people like Francisco Gonzalez who did the Golden Wake. There are there are people like Black Dahlia, like Take-Two who did Black Dahlia, which was kind of an attempt to do a historical adventure game that also had a fantastical supernatural element. I'll grant you that.
I'm kind of handicapped here. What is Golden Wake about, and what is Black Dahlia about?
Well, A Golden Wake is about real estate in the 1920s or 30s, and it is based on actual historical characters. And you might want to look that up because I haven't played it. Sorry, Francisco. The Black Dahlia takes place in the 1930s and 40s, and it's about an investigator from the CGO something, an agency that was very, very briefly in existence to examine and subvert Nazi sympathizers within American governments and within American corporations.
But the thing is, are they historical in the sense that their entire narrative is constructed around actual historical events? Or are they simply taking inspiration from that? Judging from what you say, A Golden Wake sounds like it might be of a category of games that, you know, are just based around historical events, whereas Black Dahlia sounds more fictitious, you know, judging without having played it. I'm sorry to say.
No, you're absolutely right. Both of them take. And this is why I wanted to get into this in the first place, is that they take historical, what's the word? Fantastical historical approaches to storytelling.
There's a genre called magic realism, but I guess that's not what you're looking for. But it's kind of close, you know. You you have an actual historical reality, and you kind of fill in blanks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
you kind of mold history to your advantage. You know, you mold history to fit the story you're trying to tell.
which is exactly what they did with Black Dahlia, and you should definitely go play Black Dahlia, and especially you, Gareth. You might find that very, very interesting, because it's not actually about the Black Dahlia at all. She only makes a tangential appearance in the game.
Fancy about ethics and credentialism,
Yeah.
It's actually what? Sorry.
He didn't actually get it. Well, I just cleared around involved with me.
Is it about ethics and tangential historianism?
It is about ethics and game journalism.
It's always about
Boom.
Yeah.
No, but Black Dahlia does more with the magic realism kind of thing. But as far as I'm told, a Golden Wake really does a lot with historical characters and historical events, and tries to shape an adventure game narrative around something that's already happened in the past.
Like pretending he's an intellectual.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pathetic, really.
Oh my god. Okay, no. So really, getting back to the actual question. If you're not going to do World War II, which I think is kind of an overused
it's been overdone.
narrative trope in game.
But it's been overdone the wrong way, but I don't think you can get away from it.
It hasn't been, in my honest opinion, it hasn't been done in the adventure game genre. You know, you have Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and you have the Dr. Nimdog segment in I Have No Mouth.
Mouth and I must scream.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't actually have any adventure games about World War II. It's all action and adventure. But otherwise, I agree, it's overused. You know, if it's not overused in the adventure game medium, then certainly it's used in the medium of every single other game genre, and in films, and in music, and what the fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I was generally waiting for you to surprise me. I was thinking you were going to say like the Civil War in Burma or something. Or like the liberation of Tibet or something.
Too many brown people involved in that. No.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
Cool.
No. Well, I mean, I can only talk from my own experience, and my era of sort of history is it's gay pride. It's the march for civil rights for black people. It's the march for civil rights for disabled people. It's the general sort of move towards civil rights for people who aren't white men. And I don't think there are enough adventure games about the suffragettes. There aren't enough about, sort of Martin Luther King Jr. kind of generation. There's not enough about disabled people. There's not enough about gay pride. And
that's very true, because Denmark actually celebrates 100 years of women's suffragette this year. We did just the other day. I mean, 100
you're
years.
doing better than we did.
Yeah, 100 years of women's suffrage. Why aren't there any games about that? Why aren't there any adventure games about the woman who is trying to cope with not having a political voice?
It took until the end of World War I until we gave the right to vote to women over the age of 30.
There are great stories there to be told. Why haven't we told them?
I don't know. Why hasn't there been a sympathetic, normal homosexual person in adventure games?
Well, Trolls has been around longer than we have, so we should have done this by now.
I must confess, I like what we did with Late Last Night, which was to do a bisexual protagonist, because it's
not flaunted like it's like a part of her, like an
okay.
part of.
I'm gonna drop a bomb for you. I consider myself bisexual, so
Cool.
Bomb
you
drop.
guys have fun later.
Yeah, extramarital affair. No, anyway, I like what we did with that, and it's not that you have to stuff it in anyone's face. I'm certainly not stuffing
There are plenty of other holes.
It kind of goes with the bisexual thing.
Stuffing my sexual identity into anyone else's face, but it's there. It's out there.
Cool.
This is an important mean, he's laughing his ass off.
All right. So
I think
why is he laughing? Oh, he's laughing because
I think it was when I started talking about stuffing into other people's faces. Am I right?
So should we like cap this off in some sort of semblance of normal?
I think we have hit a point where the shark has not only been jumped but curb stomped.
And I did not mean that your bisexuality was in any way a semblance of non-normalcy. What? No one's going to pick up on that? All right, cool. You can follow us.
I don't give a shit because, in my opinion, thinking about sexuality as a static entity is so 19th century. You know, next year I might say something completely different. So
I completely agree. And you can also follow us on our website at backseat.com. Or in our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/backseatdesigners.
Patreon.com/backseatdesigners is the place to be at.
Right.
If you want to follow, if you want to support my sexual encounters.
At BS Designers on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. If you would like to see Fred sleep raping Gareth, you can do that on youtube.com/backseatdesigners.
Yeah, we'll keep that on the live stream. Yeah.
Right. And that's about it. Also, you can give us money, which you probably aren't going to do because there's no way in hell you've watched this far.
Stephen Alexander would.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, Stephen Alexander is Stephen Alexander, as my dear friend Peter Cushing would say. OBE actually is a special kind of. This reminds me of a story. I never really wanted to be an actor, incidentally. But when we did a movie for Hammer about Rasputin. And I recall a childhood memory when my mother called me down. I was a child. I was sound asleep.
Was Santa Claus kissing him?
Yeah. She woke. Will you shut the fuck up while I'm desecrating Sir Christopher? My mother.
You can also give us money at patreon.com/backseatdesigners.
Anyway, my mother shouted from the living room, "Christopher," she said with a voice totally unlike mine. "There is someone you have to meet." And I went down the stairs, and down there was the widow of Rasputin. And she looked at me, and she says, You remind me of him." And I said, "Surely you can't be serious. Rasputin was a tall Russian gentleman, long hair, long beard. I look nothing like him." And she said, "No, no, no. The expression."
What?
That is an actual Christopher Lee quote. I was pretty much quoting that ad verbatim. He has said that.
That's disturbing in a lot of ways. Is there any way I can talk you into ending the stream?
Oops. Or
Fox.
Follow them on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like them on Facebook. Subscribe to their RSS feed through whatever podcatcher you have.
Someone
end this.
Someone is currently watching this, and I can only say that I am sorry.
I would like to thank our guest, Mr. Gareth Millward. Round of applause. Round of applause.
Yeah, round of applause for Gareth.
Golf clap for.
Great. Gareth is really nice to have around. We're probably never gonna talk after this.
I am definitely gonna talk to you after this.
Well, this has been great. I'm not sure what exactly we got to during this episode, but
historical adventure games,
adventure game designers who were able to get something useful out of it. Godspeed. So, in the memorial words of Mr. Ken Allen,
No more for today.